So, what would you little maniacs like to do first?
Hey, Lashy Kids and Driving Mutants, how is everyone doing today? Also, can you hear me okay? Because I dropped my microphone and it popped off the base. Hopefully it's working okay. Let me know if the sound is all right. First person in the room was Jihan. Shout out to you, Jihan. Thank you for coming through. Sorry that today's show started at 7:45. I noticed that you were here at 7:16 because normally I do these at 7 o'clock, but I ended up doing it a little bit later today. Tony Man says, did anyone see the trailer for July 1st premiere of Volume 2? I saw a teaser. I actually avoided watching the trailer because I want to be surprised. Marty says, yo, sent out a tweet to say you're live. Thank you so much, Marty. I really appreciate you. This guy here is awesome. Yes, he is. Tony Man says, works fine. Okay. And Marty says, sounds loud and clear. Cool, cool, cool. All right, let me get into Stranger Things. That's odd. I could swore I had the image. Might have an issue with my image files. Hold on. There it is. Okay, so let me share my screen. How is everybody's week going so far? We made it to the midway point. Let me do it like that. There we go. Pull up my notes because this is a lot to remember. Today we're going to do Stranger Things episodes 5 and 6, and then we're going to roll right into Chucky episodes 5 and 6 as well. For Stranger Things, episode 5 is called The Nina Project. And it starts out with Argyle, and I'm going to call it Argyle and Nim whenever I'm talking about, because there's two groups of kids. There's the kids in California, and then there's the kids in Hawkins. And rather than me saying, all their names, I'm just going to say Argyle and them and the Hawkins kids. So Argyle and them are in the van, and they're trying to transport, they're trying to get to where 11 is, and they still got the agent guy in the van, but unfortunately he passes away, and he gives them a pin, which is going to come back up in a moment. Meanwhile, the military guy is ransacking the house, still looking for 11, and he finds her note, and then he also finds the other agent guy that was shot. So he takes him. Well, first he questions him, and then he takes him with them because that guy is not trying to give up any information. 11 gets to the top secret. I'm just gonna call it a facility where I always forget Paul Reiser's character's name. But anyways, Paul Reiser takes her there to try to help her get her powers back, and she's has a good rapport with him, and she feels kind of safe with him, and she's okay until she sees the other dude, the doctor that they called Papa. That's when she kind of freaks out and she tries to run away, and unfortunately, she's caught before she can run away. Actually, they sedate her. Tony Man says, I'm running down the road trying to loosen my load. Got a world of trouble on my mind because you asked how we were. That sounds like song lyrics, but I can't place the song. I don't know. That sounds like song lyrics, but I can't figure out which song it is. Y'all let me know. Hopper is still getting beat up by the Russians, and he's still in his like military. Well, it's not military; it's like a prison type thing. But the guys running it, they have uniforms that make them look like they're military, but I don't think that they are necessarily associated with the Russian government. I don't know if they're supposed to be or not. Tony Man says, Eagles, take it easy. Yes. I know what song you're talking about now. The Eagles. Now, that was an interesting group. Their lineup changed a lot, and there was a lot of strife between Don Henley, Glenn Fry, and I can't remember the gentleman that played the solo on Hotel California, because I can't remember whether, I'm sorry to get sidetracked, but I have to go into this. It was either Don Henley or Glenn Fry that told the dude that played the solo on Hotel California that they didn't need him. And I'm like, that's kind of a major part of the song and what makes it that super popular. And they wanted to pay him less. It was a whole mess. But then they split up, and both Don Henley and I just said his name, Glenn Fry, had really good solo careers. And I think Glenn Fry got back together with the Eagles. I don't know if Don Henley ever rejoined them, but I think they ended up getting back together. But yeah, that's it. If you want to watch it like a documentary, it's very, very interesting. Find the one about the Eagles. It's very, or there's probably more than one, but there's like a 3-hour documentary about the Eagles. It's super interesting. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, there's Yuri is flying in a plane with a captured Joyce and Murray, and as I told you before, I really don't care about this side plot. I think they're just there just because they've been characters in the previous seasons, but I really could give a good goddamn about Joyce and Murray. I really could. I find them really, really boring, and I feel like every time they put them on screen, it makes the story screech to a halt. Like literally, they could have just written that Hopper is, going through what he's going through, and then he gets out or he saves himself, because I just feel like we don't need that. We don't need Joyce and Murray. I'm sorry, but I guess they had to give him something to do. Eddie's still holed up in the Weed Man's house, and he calls up Nancy and asks her if she can, drop by and give him some food. And also he asks her to hook him up some beer. And I'm like, I don't know how they're going to do that too easily, because if it was the 70s, I could get it, because I think the legal drinking age in most of America was 18 in the 70s. But by 1986, I think the legal drinking age was pushed up to 21. So it probably would have been harder for them to get beer for him. That's just an aside. It has nothing to do with nothing, but that's what my mind was thinking about. Nancy ends up cutting him off because she notices that Max is missing from the couch, and Dustin was supposed to stay awake to watch Max, but he fell asleep. And it was a nice touch when she went to wake up Dustin. He had that little bit of drool coming out of his mouth. That's realistic. I remember there was a kid in my middle school class that would sleep on his desk, and the teacher woke him up and there was like a puddle of drool on his desk. So anyways, they find Max upstairs drawing pictures, and the picture she's drawing is of what she can remember seeing when she was in Vecna's world. And somehow Nancy looks at the various pictures and then she pieces them together like a puzzle, and it creates a house. And of course, Nancy knows where this house is because she just formally went to go talk to Victor Creel, and it turns out to be Victor Creel's the house that his wife inherited. Tony Man says, off topic, you mean Joe Walsh. Also, I hated the whole plane story and liked when it goes back to the prison. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I'm not alone with that. Yeah, Joe, I think, yeah, Joe Walsh would be the guitarist that played the solo on Hotel California, which is an amazing solo. Like, how could you say that he's doesn't deserve what you deserve as the lead singer? Like, that's just so, I don't know, it's out of this world. But yeah, I'm glad that we're in agreement that the whole plane sequence with Murray, Yuri, and Joyce is like boring. Like they could, if they had to have them do something, they could leave it in there, but shorten it. Short instead of being 10 minutes long, give them 2.5 minutes. That's like really all we need to see of them. What else happened? 11 is back at the facility, and unfortunately she wakes up. I know this has got to be super duper traumatizing for her to wake up, her head shaven again and in the medical gown. Like, I know that it's got to freak her the heck out. Hold on, let me turn this down. This is making me look pale as heck. There we go, that's better. I was looking like a ghost. Y'all should tell me when I'm looking like a ghost. um so she, while she's in this sensory deprivation take, it allows us to see into her psyche, or her, basically her backstory. So we get a flashback to when she was younger in the facility, and she meets this weird ass orderly dude, and also just shows all how many kids were there, um, and just how the facility looked. It's crazy how they tried to put like the rainbow colors in the facility, but it still felt very cold and, I guess, clinical. I can't think of another term to call it. Um, the Argyle and them, that's what I'm calling them, Argyle and them, end up having to bury the agent because he passed away, and they're sitting there trying to figure out how to get to 11 or where to find Project Nina. And Argyle's freaking out because clearly, I mean, wouldn't you freak out if you got to bury an agent? And so they tell him to calm down and go smoke some weed. And then they finally figure out, when Argyle's trying to make this a cardboard headstone and the pin's not working. And then I think it was Will or Mike, one of them said, why would the agent give us a pin that doesn't work? And that's when they decided to open the pin and they found the phone number. And so they decide, okay, well, we can't, it's hard for us to trace this phone number. So let's see if we can go to Dustin's girlfriend's house and see if she knows how to trace the phone number. So they end up on their way from where they was hiding the body to trying to find Dustin's girlfriend, Susie. Let's see. It jumps to Chrissy's funeral, and we see in the funeral, in the audience of the funeral, one of the jock characters, he starts to see that clock. So we're like, okay, well, he's about to be the next victim because he's seeing that clock. I think that's all that happened in the funeral scene. I can't remember. There was someone speaking at the podium, but I don't remember what they said, and I didn't make a note of it. Oh, after that, the jocks meet up. I don't know where, I guess at their little hang up spot. And they're talking about how they think the Hellfire Club is a satanic cult. And then one of them says something about seeing someone walking around or a light on at Reefer Rick's house. And another one was like, well, Reefer Rick is in jail, so who's at his house? And that's when they figure out, oh, then it must be Eddie at Reefer Rick's house. So then they all get their baseball bats and whatever, and they're going to go after Eddie. What's crazy is I don't remember any of their names. Even the main one that looks like a Ken doll, I don't remember his name. He's just Jock number one. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just me. Do you guys know Jock number one's name? Because I don't. My sister was saying that he reminds her of a young Tom Cruise. Not in how he looks, but the way he sounds and the way he acts is very Tom Cruise-ish. Okay, what else? Oh, the Hawkins kids end up going to the house that Nancy told them about, which was, of course, Victor Creel's old house. And when they go in there, they see that clock, the clock that Max, Chrissy, and who else was it that saw it before the jock? I feel like there's a third person. Oh, Fred. Fred also saw that clock before his untimely passing, but they see the real clock on the wall. And so that was pretty cool. The house reminded me of the house from It. I don't know if you've seen It chapter. Well, I don't think did they show it in chapter one. I know they definitely showed it in chapter two, but it was giving that type of house, probably on purpose because a lot of things in Stranger Things are homages to Stephen King. Like the logo of Stranger Things is homage to Stephen King's Needful Things. So it's definitely, I shouldn't say definitely, but more likely than not that that's an homage to Stephen King. So what else happened? More Joyce and Murray scenes. I'm just gonna skip over that because, like I said, those scenes slow the momentum to like a complete halt. We see some of the tests that the children did in the facility where 11 was being kept because she's still having her experience in the sensory deprivation tank to try to. The doctor's purpose is they're trying to get her to remember her trauma because they feel that her trauma is what's blocking her from using her powers. So they're trying to get her to um, confront that trauma and find out the truth. So that's why we're seeing these flashback scenes. And at first 11 is struggling amongst the other kids, like her powers are not as strong. And then at one point she does end up besting one of the strongest kids, and for that she ends up getting really bullied and like physically assaulted to the point of her having I think she had a concussion when they were done with her. Really dicey stuff. She also witnesses them being abusive to that orderly who was helping. Oh, I think I skipped episode 6 when I mentioned the orderly stuff. That doesn't happen until episode 6. Ran together in my head. Anyways, the jocks do show up to Reefer Rick's looking for Eddie, and they were this close to capturing him. And they were swimming out to a boat where he was like he had hid in a boathouse, and then when they went down from the house to the boathouse to try to find him, he was already gone in a boat. So the two of them started swimming after him, and Vecna snatched up the one that was having the visions of the clock and, pretzelized that dude. That was a pretty cool scene. Although the CGI wasn't as good. For some reason, the CGI was good for that one as it was for Chrissy's death or Victor Creel's wife's death. Those looked a little bit better. I don't know if it's the lighting or what, but this one looked a little less realistic. So he gets pretzelized, and that's how that ends. We'll come back to it in the next episode. 11 does try to escape a second time, and then finally her powers kick in. She throws everybody all over the place. But when Papa talks to her, she does, for some reason, decide to trust him and go back with him rather than escaping. And so that brings us to episode 6. I know I rushed through that. Do you guys have any thoughts on episode 5? Because that kind of went by really fast as I recapped it. I will say it's a pretty good episode. I enjoy episode 5, not as much as episode 4, but episode 5 is pretty cool. I think 4 was like, of the first set, episode 4 and episode 7 are probably my favorites. But we'll see as I rewatch, because I might change my mind. But right now, okay. You don't have anything to say? I guess I'll keep talking. Okay, episode 6 is called The Dive. Okay, do have a comment. I still don't understand why you would jump in the water and swim while you're chasing a rowboat. I guess they thought they could catch him. They really thought they could swim that fast. I don't think I could swim that fast. Okay, so pretty much picking up where episode 5 left off, the police show up to Reefer Rick's house. And of course, they see the state of the pretzelized boy. and they start questioning the other jocks that are there, and they're like, what happened to Eddie? Because they, immediately think that Eddie did it. I don't know how they think that Eddie broke this person up like this. Like, that doesn't even make logical sense. But they're questioning the jocks about it, and jock number one is like, he's a vessel for Satan. And the cops are like, Okay. Meanwhile, the army guy is still torturing the other agent guy to try to get him to tell them where 11 is. And he's like, I'm not telling you anything. So agent guy gets put into like looks like a giant locker. I don't know what you else would call it, or kind of look like a safe. Either way, he got put in a box. Back at the facility, Papa is still continuing to encourage 11. Um, it's very interesting because she has a complex relationship with him. I think that a part of her still loves him as the only father that she's ever known, but then the other part of her feels, I guess, angry with him because he created her differently, and she doesn't want to be different. She wants to be like a normal kid. So I could see where she has like complex feelings about him. Back in Hawkins, the kids hear, that there's an APB out for Eddie. So they go and try to get to him before the police find him. Meanwhile, Argyle and them head to Salt Lake City, and they end up at Dustin's girlfriend's house, Susie, which this sequence is one of there's two sequences in this episode that I love. And the first one is when they first get to Susie's house, and it's so 80s comedy gold. Like, everything about it, the way the kids were, the little kid that had the bow and arrow, and the two kids in the kitchen that are cooking, and the other two kids that are filming a movie. I just loved the way that household was. There was just something nostalgic about going through the house. Actually, the way the camera went through the house, very like that 80s movies. Beautiful. Loved it. Tommy says, I don't know if it's my internet or yours, but you're occasionally pausing and skipping. It might be my internet. Let me see if I can switch routers. Hang on a second. It might pause a second when I switch routers. Yeah, it's saying weak signal. Okay. There we go. Hopefully that fixes it. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that. So, where was I? Oh, I forgot to mention one of the kids, one of the older ones. Didn't she look just like Ali Sheedy? I think let me see if I can find a picture of her and a picture of Ali Sheedy. Looks like I have to stop sharing and then share again. I don't know why. Give me one moment. There it is. Found a picture. Doesn't she look like Ali Sheedy? Or at least to me, she was reminding me of Ali Sheedy. And I think that's on purpose. I think that's completely on purpose. But I liked it. Where was I? And I also appreciate Susie's character. I love a girl nerd. More Joyce Murray and Yuri. I didn't mention in the last episode that they had crashed a plane, but they crashed a plane and they survived the crash, and they're still heading on their way to try to save Hopper. Meanwhile, Hopper and the prisoners get a feast, and the prisoners are all happy at first until 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 Hopper tells them that they're pretty much about to be food for a demigorgon, and that's why they're getting this feast. So it will fatten them up. I kind of like the scenes, like I said earlier, the scenes with Hopper are great. I think they belong. I'm not going to mention Joyce and them again, but I think Hopper can just he's basically going to save himself, I think. Tony Man says she wears the same sweater as well from the Breakfast Club. This picture, I believe, is from the Breakfast Club, but she has her coat and her scarf on over the sweater. We get another flashback to the orderly guy who's trying to help 11 build her skills up, and he gives her some decent advice because I believe she's able to use it later. And she remembers, because he tells her to remember something that's very hurtful in her life, and it'll allow her to be or use her powers more strongly. So the hurtful thing that she remembers in her life is the removal of her mother from the facility. Go like this. Lucas and Max talk about the jock that got pretzeled, and Lucas tells Max that he knows that that guy was being abused by his father, but nobody said anything about it, and that he feels that Vecna is purposely targeting kids that have emotional issues, like with a lot of different things. Like all the kids had some type of emotional issue that he targeted. And so that was a nice conversation between Lucas and Max. They do find Eddie in the woods, and Eddie finally meets, I think this is the first time Eddie met Steve. I think so. I think this is the first time Eddie met Steve, and they both had heard about each other through Dustin. This is another cool scene. They have a town hall meeting where the sheriff is trying to talk to people and calm everybody down and hopefully make them feel safer. And the jocks come in and they're talking about how Hellfire Club is a satanic cult. And I love how little Erica is like, it's not a cult. She said, it's a club for nerds. That was so cute. But, they're still on their evil dies tonight type thing. So they get people riled out to go out and be vigilantes. And they are passing this flyer around that has, the Hellfire Club in the flyer. And of course, Lucas and Dustin are on the flyer as well. So their parents rush back to somebody's house. I don't remember. I want to say it was Nancy's house, but I could be mistaken. All the parents are holding the house trying to find their kids because they know that when the mob sees the pictures of their kids, that they're going to be targeted as satanic cultists. So they're trying to figure out what to do. Back in, was it Salt Lake City? I think it was Salt Lake City. Susie tries to help them out, Argyle and them, by using her, originally she was going to use her computer, but her computer got confiscated when she kind of told her father what she did to help Dustin, and so she got grounded, and her father came and took her computer. But what was cracking me up is how the father came in there and picked up the computer so easily and walked out the door. Now, if anybody had a computer in the 80s, the monitors were heavy as hell. He picked up the monitor, the CPU, and the keyboard at the same time. The keyboard wasn't that heavy, but it was still thicker. Like our keyboards were like this thick in the 80s. And he picked it up like it was nothing. So I know it was hollowed out. The computer he picked up, that was a hollowed out monitor and a hollowed out CPU, because those were heavy as hell. So she tells them, well, I could still get to my dad's computer and try to look things up that way because they have the internet in their house, which is super, super early for people to have the internet. I remember when we first got it, it was 1989, which is still super early. A lot of people didn't have it until mid 90s. Um, oh no. Stop, 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 stop. Okay, I said that. I said that. Where did I leave off? In the woods, they decide, well, Dustin actually figures out with the help of Lucas about the electromagnetic fields being off, and that's what was making his compass not work properly. So they decide they're going to still try to follow that electromagnetic field to try to find the gate to Vecna's realm. Why? I don't know what they thought they was going to do when they found the gate, but they said they were going to go and find the gate. So they're on their way doing that. Um, in another flashback, uh, 11 is with a bunch of other kids and they have to do this thing, and it's really reminding me of Scanners a little bit, if you've ever seen Scanners, where they have to do this thing where Papa drew two circles on the floor and the students stand each in a circle and they try to push each other out of the circle using just their telekinetic powers. And there's one little boy, I can't remember what number he was, but he was kicking everybody's ass until 11 came up and she threw his ass against the wall. And of course, he's all mad about this because he thought he was like the number one ace, whatever. So he gets mad about this. And him and these other kids, they bully her. I mentioned it in a few minutes ago, but it actually happened in episode 6. They bully her so bad, they basically throw her around the room using telekinesis until she hits her head on the floor and has a concussion. So she's in the facilities nurses. Um, I guess she gets taken to the nurses station. But how are you going to be a bully and you're in a facility with a bunch of other shaved head kids? Like, that's just so weird. Like, how do you even learn to be a bully? You're isolated from society. So how do you know how to bully? It's just weird. Then the next is probably my favorite sequence. Yeah, I would say my favorite sequence out of the series, well, out of the series so far. My second favorite is, of course, Max's escape from Vecna. That was a really good sequence. But this one right here, when Susie and her siblings enact the plan to distract her father while she uses a computer, it is done so well. And I love the feel of it. Like, it's completely, to my recollection, original, but it gives you that feel of the 80s movies like Batteries Not Included, or I'm trying to think whether it was Adventures in Babysitting or Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Something like that. Or even early 90s, like something like, I think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids came out in the 90s, not the 80s. But that type of movie, that type of family comedy, that's what it was giving me. And it was such a warm, nostalgic feeling. I enjoyed that. Okay, back in the woods, the Hawkins kids make it to the river and they decide who's going to go on a boat and who's not going to go on a boat to go out further and get closer to the gate. And of course, it's seniors and freshmen. So the seniors that get on the boat are Robin, Eddie, Nancy, and Steve. And then they leave Dustin, Lucas, and Max on the shore. And there's a funny moment with, I think it was Lucas is talking about how Steve should shave his chest, but he says that the chicks dig it. And then Max is like, let me see. And she takes the binoculars and she's like looking at Steve with his shirt off. And Lucas is looking at her like a little bit insecure. But that's okay. That was a cute moment. Um, Steve ends up jumping in the river to get closer to see what he can find with the gate, and he gets sucked through. Well, he comes up back up to the surface, so you think he's going to be okay, but then something grabbed him around the ankle like a tentacle and pulled him under the surface into Vecna's world. And then the episode pretty much ends with two things. One, Steve and Vecna's world fighting these, I'm calling them octobats because they're like octopuses and or octopi. Would this plural of octopus be octopi? Anyways, and they're mixed with bats. And so he's trying to fight them off, and the cops end up catching Dustin, Lucas, and Max, and that's where the episode ends. Tony says Adventures in Babysitting was a dope movie. Didn't they somehow end up on a roof of a building? I think they did, but I can't remember because for some reason I mixed both of them together. I mix Adventures in Babysitting and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead in my head. I need to rewatch those as an adult. Because I literally have not seen those since I was a kid. So I would need to rewatch them as an adult, and then I'd be able to answer that question. Okay. Any other thoughts before we get into Chucky? Which, by the way, I have way more images for Chucky than I do Stranger Things. Like, usually I would be advancing the images, but I hardly had any images for these 2 episodes of Stranger Things. But with Chucky, fortunately, I do have images, so we'll have a little bit more fun talking about Chucky. Let me get those queued up. Hang on just a moment. When I was trying to clean the bidet. I should have continued to clean it. There we go. Okay, so we're going to get into Chucky episodes 5 and 6. And episode 5 is called Little Little Lies. And it starts with Charles Lee Ray. Wait, that shouldn't be the next image. There it is. In the nightclub. By the way, that's his daughter playing him. She's doing a great job. But he's in a nightclub, and he peeps this girl over here, trying to talk to her. I love that there's GIFs of this. But the way Brad Dourif's daughter embodies him, I love it. Then back into current day times. I have to put this up here because I feel like, well, I'm not the only one that feels that this is an homage. But in hospital, Caroline wants to see Chucky, and at first her dad's like, well, you can't see Chucky, but she starts, doing Caroline thing where she starts screaming that she wants Chucky. So her dad takes Chucky out of the little cabinet and shows him to her, and of course he's all melty and gross looking, so she starts screaming, and the dad throws her away in the hospital. He went down this chute where he landed in like this pile of hypodermic needles, and obviously I'm not the only person that this reminded of Saw. I want to say Saw 3. Is it Saw 2 or Saw 3? Can't remember, but one of the Saw movies when Chucky was with those needles sticking out of him, which he enjoyed. I guess he said he was getting a rush, whatever was in those needles. And it goes, do I have the right one? Yeah. Lexi asks what happened to Chucky, and of course her father tells her that he threw Chucky away. Why am I losing track? I don't have a picture of this, but Lexi, Jake, and Devin go into the hospital, and they start looking for Chucky in the dumpster with the needles, which was a really dicey scene because if you get stick with, I can't even think about it. You think about getting stuck with the little hypodermic needles, that's freaking me the heck out. But anyways, they don't find Chucky. Then the teacher tries to counsel the class, and it's an interesting scene because, like I said, I still think the teacher is Glinda. I mean, they haven't revealed it yet, but I like, why have this redhead teacher if she's not gonna end up being Glinda? So, um, after the teacher counsels them, you could tell how they're talking amongst themselves, and Junior kind of feels left out of the group. You can see it on his face, and also they're not filling him in on anything that's happening. So I get why he would feel that way. Why did this? Yeah, that one was out of order. This one should be up first. I don't know what's going on with. I got to figure something different out for how to put these pictures up because I number them and they still don't come up in the order that I numbered them. So I don't know what the hell's up with that. This show's gonna be janky because that's just what it is. I'm not good with technology. Lexi's family returns home and her father surprises her with a new Chucky doll that is named Tommy, which, if you remember from Child's Play 2, the other Chucky doll that was in the foster parents' home was also named Tommy. But she's all happy about that. And they're sleeping in different parts of the house because obviously they had a fire in the house. So Caroline is sleeping in like this downstairs, like guest room type of thing with Tommy. I keep wanting to call him Chucky number 2. When Lexi comes home and discovers that the Tommy doll is there, at first she tests it and she thinks he's okay because he's not showing any signs of being Chucky. But she does see that, what's his name, Melty Chucky showed back up. So she calls Jake and Devin back to the house because she's like, we got to take care of the Melty Chucky. And I love the scene when they pull up. They're riding their bikes in the dark and they pull up on her house and they find the Chucky doll in the trash. And Devin tases it in the ass, and then Jake throws it in a bag, and they put the bag on the ground. They stomp the hell out of that doll. I thought that was the funniest thing ever because they were like, this doll is not about to get us. So they stomped that doll good. I love that scene. There's a little bit of family drama with Junior and his dad and his father pulling some strings for him to go to nationals, even though he was in a hospital during regionals, which is pretty messed up. And Junior realized that. So Junior says to his father, this is not fair. And his father's like, well, you have to take the opportunities that life gives you. And I agree with Junior on this. It's not fair. I mean, to the other runners, it's not fair. He also has a secondary drama with Jake because Lexi is texting Jake while they're at the dinner table. And of course, Lexi being Junior's girlfriend, he's going to feel some type of way about Jake getting all these text messages. Meanwhile, Junior says she's not even answering my texts. So, like, she should. I don't know why they're not. Well, I do kind of feel I know why they're not telling Junior because Junior seems like he would snitch to his parents, and that's probably why they won't tell him. Or they may think that Junior won't believe them because he does give me that. I'm not going to listen to what you guys have to say. I don't believe you. So I think that's why they didn't tell Junior what's going on. The third thing could be because Junior doesn't really like Jake at all. So he might not be on his side. There was a really sweet moment between. Oh, I thought I had that. I didn't know I had that picture. God, I'm really off today. I got all my shit fucked up. This is worst. I'm gonna retitle this worst live stream ever because it's so janky. I apologize. It's so janky. But that's them with the taser in the bag, and when they were gonna stomp Chucky, they ended up stomping Chucky. This is the moment that I want to talk about because that's a really, really sweet moment between Jake and Devin, and it's kind of a historic moment. I think this is the first time in a TV show that they showed gay teenagers like that are actual teenagers, not 27-year-old adults playing teenagers, having this type of scene. And you know what it reminded me of? When I was in middle school and we had this scene on the Wonder Years. I remember seeing that, and it was like the first time we saw kids that were actual middle school age like have a romantic scene. And it's very sweet. It's very like I would say age appropriate as long as like their parents agree to them doing this type of acting. But I that's what that scene reminded me of. It was very Wonder Years. We get another flashback. This is a behind the scenes photo. As you can see, the crew behind him. I just thought it was a really cool photo because of that. But this is when Charles Lee Ray actually meets Tiffany. And I like that the actress who's playing Tiffany is also, I believe I read that she's also Eurasian, just like Jennifer Tilly. So I think that's pretty cool. They try to be, even though she doesn't look like Jennifer Tilly, she is a good actress, and I think she embodied the character really well. And again, Fiona Dourif, like, like who could play your father better than you? Like that is awesome. They did put a little bit of prosthetics on her to broaden her jawline, and of course they made it look like she has a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow. So that was something they added. Also, I think they padded her shoulders more to make her have a broader shoulders. But I think that's pretty cool that they did that. Anyways, they meet and they are psycho together, and they end up taking out that girl that was in the earlier picture of him, that girl with the blonde hair that he was flirting with. And that's when they find out that they both share the same psycho tendencies. Meanwhile, back at Junior's place, his mother is going to therapy and she's talking to her therapist about this secret that she is keeping. And she doesn't tell us the secret at this point, but we do hear about it later in the episode. And so, we just see that she is going through some things that she's keeping from her family. Back at Tiffany, and this is what's interesting. I'm going to call her Nika Chucky for now because this character goes back and forth between being halfway possessed by Charles Lee Ray, and then sometimes she will go back into her Nika persona, and it seems like it's triggered by blood. Whenever she sees blood, it's like Charles Lee Ray passes out and then she wakes up and she's Nika. But what's interesting is that when she's Nika, she's paraplegic, but when she's Charles Lee Ray, she can walk. Very, very interesting. And also great acting by Fiona Dourif. This is her as Nika, and you can see like just the expression on her face. She's in a situation that she doesn't want to be in, and Tiffany is pretty much holding her hostage. But look at the difference between her acting as Nika and her acting as Charles Lee Ray. Isn't that great? Look at this. That's Nika and Charles Lee Ray. And she does it like that. She flips from one to the other. Very, very awesome acting. Here's another homage during that same scene. Tiffany had this dude tied to a chair, and the dude was, when his gag is taken off, is saying how Chucky killed his whole family. The doll killed his whole family. That's all the backstory we know about him, and we know that Tiffany is holding him captive. But in the background of the scene is just this dude laying on the floor the whole time. They never mention him. No one mentions him. He's just there in the background. And it's very much giving Saw when Homeboy was just laying there the whole time in the movie. I thought that was a pretty cool homage. There is a a meeting where who was it? The mayor and the sheriff were talking, and then they were going to introduce the school principal who wanted to say something, and this is how the school principal ended up showing up. Well, first you see her head rolling across the floor, and the song that's playing is Heads Will Roll. I'm trying to think of what group sang it. It might be Susie Sue and the Banshees. Somebody correct me. Who sang the Heads Will Roll? Because I know there's more than one song called Heads Will Roll, but it's very on the nose to have the song Heads Will Roll playing while a literal head is rolling. But very cool scene also. I think that's the end of that episode. Yes. So now, let me check the comments. I've just been talking and talking. No comments. So I'm going to continue talking and talking and talking. So let's get into episode 2, where Kyle and Andy show up and they're pretending to be census takers. And so they're going around basically trying to find all the Chucky dolls. And they go to this person's home and they ask their daughter, they say that they make something up about wanting kids to get involved in the census taking. And so they ask the daughter, hold on, this is such a weird design choice. Oh, I see. It's a foyer. I was looking at these two doors on the side going, where is it? Why is this door here on the left right in front of this door? And I see it's like a double door foyer. It must be a much older home. But anyways, they say they were trying to get children involved in census. So they asked the little girl about all her friends and meaning her toys. So she talks about all her friends and she brings out her favorite, who is Charlie. And just before, like at first, he was acting like a regular doll, like, Chucky does. He always acts like he's a regular doll. And then this happens. But it's crazy when he said, "You made me do this." And he pulled out a switchblade behind a child's head. Can you believe that? Behind this little baby's head. They're so cute. And so Kyle and Andy pretty much Pulp Fiction this dude. Or at least I think that's an homage to Pulp Fiction. That's what it looks like to me. The angle is different, but still. We flip back to Tiffany and Nika slash Chucky, or Nika slash Charles, and she's telling her about her plans and how she wants to be with her instead of being with Chucky. But then I think the scene gets broken into two because she says she's going to go see about a house. And of course, there's Chucky talking back to her about, their plans. These facial expressions are everything. She's just giving everything. And then back to Nika because blood gets splattered on her. Again, just look at the depth. Charles Lee Ray, Nika. It's like when she committed to playing two separate characters, she committed to playing two separate characters. I dig that. This is when they were playing, I think we're playing poker. But Tiffany figures out that Nika is pretending to be Charles Lee Ray by pretty much stabbing her in the leg, and she didn't feel it because obviously when she's Nika, she's paraplegic, so she doesn't have any feeling beneath her waist. And she ends up knocking her out. Meanwhile, Devin and Jake are trying to do research, and they figure that they should contact Andy Barkley because, like I said in a previous episode, Devin had found an article about Andy saying that his doll was responsible for the murders, and they also discovered that the phone number that Jake received a phone call from was most likely Andy's. So Jake calls Andy, and he doesn't pick up at first, but then he calls right back. And he tells him he's going to meet them in Hackensack, New Jersey. And I think they're coming from Rhode Island, so it's not that far of a drive. I think they said Rhode Island is where they were at. It's funny because Kyle's stance here, it's the same way that she stood in Child's Play 2. Nice touches for like continuity. And this is Tiffany going to see her house that she has purchased that she says that Charles Lee Ray actually grew up in. And what I noticed was the real estate agent referred to her as Miss Tilly. So that's kind of like a continuation of the section of the sequels that are like Bride of Chucky and Seed of Chucky. I did wonder the car in the background. There was a short scene where it jumps back to the 80s and it shows when Charles Lee Ray and Tiffany got that car. They went to go see this dude that was selling the car, but they ended up icing him and just taking the car and not paying him. But I do wonder if that's the same car as the car from Christine. Somebody let me know if it's the same car. I don't know if it is. I probably could Google it afterwards, but I'm just talking midstream, so that would be another cool homage if that is the same car from Christine. Let me pause to see if there's any notes here. Heads Will Roll was sung by the Yeah Yeah Yes. Thank you. I'm surprised I confused the Yeah Yeah Yes with Susie Sue and the Banshees. They're like different eras too, because Susie Sue was out, I think, late 80s to the 90s, and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs I think are like from the 2000s, but they could have been out as early as the 90s. Terrence says, "Hi, ladies, I just popped in to say hello." Hello, Terrence, and I know it is stupidly late in Scotland. Yeah, next week I will try to do some earlier shows, but this week I have to do later shows. But thank you for popping in. Have a good night. Sleep well. Okay, so what else happened? Oh yeah, she had Nika in the trunk when she got to the house. So she was that scene was the realtor giving her the keys because she had already bought the house. But yeah, how do you put the duct tape on like this? Look at this V shape of the duct tape. I just noticed that in the still. I didn't notice it in the when I was watching the episode. But yeah, that's professional duct tape mouth. Okay, so um Junior's mother went to go see her therapist one more time, and she left Junior in the car while she was talking to her therapist. And she told the therapist that she had decided she wasn't going to get treatment. This is after she had revealed that her secret is that she was diagnosed with cancer. And Chucky pretty much like runs down the hallway with the rolling cart and knocks her out the window. Now, what's sad is that she lands on her car with Junior inside. And I said to myself, that boy ain't never going to be right. Can you imagine what kind of psychological trauma that would be if your mother landed on a car that you were inside of? Just crazy. But I like the way the sequence was done because a lot of the show has been the animatronic Chucky, but there is an actor, a small statured actor that plays Chucky on the scenes where he has to run and do things. I think in the next episode, I'll make sure that I put up his picture outside of the Chucky costume so you can see the actor because I think he's doing a great job. Now, this part was very interesting, and this is where we get the title of our episode 6, which is Cape Queer. Um, well, two parts. One, because of the relationship between both Jake and Devin, and the relationship between Tiffany and Charles Lee Ray slash Nika in the female form. Um, the night before this, or it might be the same night. It's hard for me to tell. No, I think it's the same night because I think Devin had the same shirt on. Devin was watching Cape Fear on his computer, and he saw the scene where dude set up the teddy bear rig with the fishing line. And so he goes and he tells Jake and Lexi about this plan, which is pretty much a silent alarm for them to try to catch Chucky. Right after they do this, they see the doll move, and then you hear Chucky's laugh in the background, which is kind of cool. And so they're running around the house, all three of them trying to find Chucky. Chucky catches up to Lexi first, and he's trying to convince Lexi to kill Jake. Meanwhile, Jake is running around the house with a baseball bat, and Devin still has his taser. And it was a great sequence with Lexi talking to Chucky and trying to keep him distracted while Jake creeps up behind him with the baseball bat. But he turns around, he sees Jake, runs through his legs and slashes his calf. And then when he runs out in the hallway, Devin tases him and he goes flying back. But then he gets back up and he's gonna run towards Devin because his taser wasn't repowering up. But Chucky just runs by him and doesn't hurt him at all. Then just when you think, Chucky's run out of the house, Devin's mom pops up and she's, asking the kids what they're doing. And Chucky jumps on her back and sends her flying down the stairs. And unfortunately, this is what happened to her. Her head got turned all the way around. So that's three that Chucky has taken out, because first he took out Jake's dad. Then he took out Junior's mom. Now he's taken out Devin's mom. He's taken out these parents. And I'm like, I don't know how, like in real life, would these kids fare this well? Would they be completely traumatized? Like I would probably be catatonic if I saw my mother in this state. I don't know. That's how I feel. But that's where the episode ends. Also, really, really great episode. Tony Man says, "Are you still doing Ask Me Anything Horror Edition after Freddy Hitchhiker recap?" Yes, I am. And Tony Man says, "How I love Chucky gets messed up as the doll attacking you should." Yes, I agree. That is, I guess that's it for my what I call my janky cast. Because today was a rough one. I don't know why I was having difficulty. I guess some days you're on and other days you're a little bit off. And today was one of my days I'm a little bit off, which is why I'm taking tomorrow off. No live stream tomorrow on either channel because I think I need a day to recharge and reset and like get my shit together. Because today was not it. I feel embarrassed about this stream, but I tried. Next week will be stronger. It'll be a better stream. I don't know what the heck I was going through today. All my stuff is just not. It's not giving what I want it to give. Okay, Tony Man says, "Did you see that the new Final Destination is coming in HBO Max in August?" No, that soon? That seems really, really fast. But I'm glad it's coming to HBO Max. The last one, where did the last one was in the movie theater, right? Also, I should mention, I'm still working my way through 90 Day Fiance and also Love in Paradise, which is also a 90 Day Fiance spinoff. So on my other channel, which is Fashion Freak TV, I will be doing live streams at 4 p.m. on Mondays and Tuesdays. The Monday show is going to be based on Love in Paradise, and the Tuesday show is going to be 90 Day Fiance Season 9. Episode 11 will be the next episode. So we have a good time talking about those there. Also on Monday night, I will be on Hood Podcast. And this Monday coming, we will be talking about The Boys, Obi-Wan, and Miss Marvel. Not specifically in an order, might be a different order, but we're going to be talking about those three things on Monday because this is a very exciting weekend for streaming shows. Also, oh my God, Umbrella Academy just dropped. There's so much to watch and not enough time. There's just not enough time. I feel like the dude from the Twilight Zone that broke his glasses. All the books in the world and not enough time. That's the way I feel about TV shows. Tommy says, I think it's 6. Do you mean August 6th? Or do you mean, yeah, I think that's a typo. I'll wait for you to do that before I close out. Okay, Tony Man says Final Destination 6 is scheduled for 2022, so it's being released in HBO Max. Okay, gotcha. So it's the 6th movie. Okay, that'll be good. I think are they going to do that with Halloween Kills? Is that also going to be? I think the last not Halloween Kills, Halloween. What's the third one called? Ends? Halloween Ends. Because Halloween Kills, I think, was on Peacock TV, if I'm not mistaken, at the same time as the theater. So hopefully Halloween Kills will also be on Peacock TV as well as the theater. It focuses on first responders, Final Destination 6, that is. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I better pack it in because, like I said, this was the jankiest cast that I've done in a long time. And I'm ashamed of myself. Thank you all for sticking through, the few of you that stayed to the end of my janky cast. With that, I will just get out of here.
Hey, 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 hey.